Hi students, hi, how are you? Welcome to today's lesson. Okay, it's a fine Saturday, it's not raining over here. Okay, I hope you are having a good Saturday. Okay, so this is an extra class because as you know, we are short of time for lessons. So I hope that you can hear me. Okay, can you please leave me a comment in the comment box here. Good evening, Minion. Hi, how are you? Okay, can I just have feedback on whether you can hear me? Whether you can hear me well enough? And is my screen clear? Okay. I see Minion here. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for your feedback. Okay, so, Sabrina, thanks. Can you hear me? Yeah, all right. Now, today's lesson, actually, I'm very excited about today's lesson because I really like genetics. I really love this topic of genetics. And if you do pay attention, all right, and you have an inquisitive mind, actually, it's not difficult to understand. Okay, but the most important thing is today's lesson is the first lesson on genetics. So it is very important that you follow today's lesson because subsequently all the lessons that you will go through, it falls back on your basic. And the basic is today. I'm going to explain to you, first of all, most importantly, are all the terms that you are going to use when we talk about genetics and how we're going to explain the ratio of the offspring and so on. Okay, what are the characteristics? So you need to understand very clearly what each of the terms here mean. Okay, so today I'm going to go through slowly but clearly, all right, concisely, what you need to understand, what is the meaning of each of these terms that you're going to see in the entire chapter of genetics. Okay, all right, so let me share screen. I hope you can see this. Let me just switch to this layout. Okay, so I think you can see this because I'm looking at it right now. All right, now first of all, don't worry what you mean by monohybrid inheritance. I will go through monohybrid inheritance in my second lesson. So firstly, today, I just want to explain to you what is the meaning of inheritance and all the terms that come with this chapter on inheritance. Okay, now when you talk about genetics, genetics is a field or the field of biology which discusses or studies about how individual or how characteristic is passed on from one organism to the next organism, to the next generation. Okay, good afternoon. Who is that? Yeah, Pankasin. All right, good afternoon. Okay, so inheritance is what we say in Mandarin, or we say in Chinese, 遗传. Okay, 遗传. So monohybrid, I'll leave it for the next lesson. So don't worry. Now, when you talk about inheritance or genetics, you must not forget a very important scientist. Okay, he's called the father of modern genetics. He's the father of genetics. His name is Mendel. Okay, so his name is Mendel, Gregor Mendel. He is actually by profession a priest. He's a priest, okay, but because he's very interested in science. In fact, it's not only science or biology he's interested, he's also interested in mathematics and also meteorology. So he studies a lot of this in his free time, in his pastime. And in his church, right, it goes that he has a large garden which he uses it to plant his peas. He studies mostly on the inheritance of the pea plant. So this plant is called Pisum sativum. Okay, this is the scientific name of the green peas. You know the green peas? Now look at this picture here. I'm sure you know this green peas, right? So he studies a lot about the inheritance in this kind of plant, all right? The pea plant. Okay, so let's talk about what is the beginning first. What is the terms and others? Let's look at this. All right. Now, basically, I just can't go into monohybrid inheritance because you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. So I need to go through step by step the beginning thing. Okay, I will assume that many of you do not know what is inheritance and how it happens and so on. So I'm going to start from zero. Okay. Now you can see that, of course, you can see around you many people, many children, they tend to look at their parents if they are if they are the biological parents lah, all right? If it's adopted and foster parents, of course we can't say lah. But you can see these pictures, right? Okay, let me show you. Now you can see that the mother and the daughter, right? The daughter does bear some resemblance. That means it looks a little bit like the mom. But of course we can't say it's 100% because they are not twins, right? If you're twin, you would say that you look like 100%, very similar. But as a daughter, right, you will have some characteristic of your mother and also of your father. So we can say that you inherit or you get the certain characteristic from your mom. That means your mom must have passed some characteristic of herself, of her features to you. So you can see the smile, look at the mouth here, right? The mom and the daughter, they smile exactly the same, right? And then look at the other pair, this is the father and the son. You will see that the similarity at the nose, right? The nose and the eyes. So you will see that the resemblance is there. So that means the father must have passed certain characteristics to the son, all right, or to the children. Now, so you see, now we talk about inheritance. There are remarkable resemblances, similarities between parent and offspring. Now, let's look at this term offspring. What is the meaning of offspring? Offspring is a very general word to mention about the next generation. That means it means the children. So generally you say children, or we can say babies, right? Children, or we can say the next generation. Now, why we use offspring? Because you say you can use children for human, of course, okay? Human gives birth to, of course, babies, and then these are children. You cannot say children, you cannot use the word children for animals, right? Animals, they will have their babies. You don't say it's a children, correct or not? So children is very specific, it's just like for humans. But what about bacteria? How do you call the next generation of bacteria? You can't call them children, you can't call them kids, you can't call them babies, right? So the basic or the general name for the next generation, we use the word offspring. So the offspring you can apply to all organisms. You can apply to animals, you can apply to human, you can apply to bacteria, you can apply to plants. So that's why this is a very, what I call a very general name that can apply to all organisms, referring to the next generation. Okay, the next generation, that means the children, in other words. Okay, but you see, I use offspring because it doesn't make sense to say the children of the bacteria, right? You can, it doesn't make sense. It sounds very funny. You cannot say the children of the mango tree, right? You say the offspring. That is general. You can use it for all. All right, so you can see there's similarity between parents and offspring. Okay, of course, there are also differences because you're not identical. You're not identical to your parent because of an important process that you had, isn't it? Before you were born, of course, your parents had to produce ovum and also the sperm. So remember, before they produce that, they would have undergone these, your genes and all your cells would have undergone what? The chromosomes, this process called crossing over. Remember, crossing over causes variation. So therefore, the children or the offspring that is produced will not look exactly the same as the father or the mother. But there will be some characteristics that the offspring get from the parent. Okay, so that means they do carry certain genes. Now we say genes, but back in those days, Mendel, he doesn't say genes. He just said that there's a factor. He did not introduce the word genes. The word genes came much later. Okay, so let me check. All right, good evening, everyone. Christine, Jia Wei, Yi Hui, and Sui Yi. Good evening. All right, now let's look at number 2. The transmission. Transmission is passing down. The passing down of characteristic, don't care what characteristic, maybe skin color, you have the skin color of your father, let's say, or you maybe have the shape of your eyes, you look like your mom, right? The characteristic or the color of your eyes or the type of hair you have, maybe curly hair or straight hair, these are called characteristics, okay? You pass on from the father to the children. So the transmission, the passing down of characteristic from the parent to the offspring, you see this word offspring is a general name. Offspring means the children or next generation, which you can apply for everything. From one generation to another generation. So this is called inheritance. Okay, in Mandarin we say 遗传. Okay, 遗传 means something that you pass on to the next generation. Now the study of it, the study of inheritance, okay, the study of how this characteristic is passed on from the father to the child, and then the child passed on to the child, that means the grandchild, and also the great-grandchildren, and so on, many, many generations. So this is called genetics. Okay, there should be an S here. Okay, there should be an S here called genetics. So genetics is one of the branches under biology. It's a specific field under biology. So there are geneticists who study on genetics. Okay, now let's look at some certain terms. Now I hope you understand what's the meaning of offspring. I will explain what's the meaning of inheritance. and also genetics. Now let's go down to the actual terms you need to understand. A characteristic, and see the word characteristic. Characteristic or character is a hereditary feature. It is a feature that you can inherit. Hereditary means can be inherited, can be passed down, can be inherited, or it can be passed down. Something is passed down. That is the feature. Okay, for example, skin color. Okay, 100%. Of course, you also get that because you go under the sun. Maybe perhaps your blood group. Okay, your father happens to be O, your mother happens to be O, you will also be O actually. Okay, so this is called a feature, like the blood grouping, the color of your eyes, the type of hair you have, maybe it's curly or straight, or perhaps other things like the ability to roll your tongue. The ability to roll tongue is U-shape. I happen to have the ability to roll my tongue, okay? With a U-shape, right? If you can't, some people cannot do it. Okay, maybe you want to try later. Right? Some people cannot do it no matter how hard they try. They can't train themselves to roll the tongue. They just can't. They can't roll the tongue. Okay, so there are two types of people actually. Some people can roll the tongue and some people cannot roll the tongue. So this is a hereditary feature that can be on. Now, each characteristic is a feature of an organism. For example, height is one character or characteristic, skin color or eye color. Okay, now let me show you this picture. Now, character is a feature. Let's say we talk about eye color. All right, now eye color is a character which every human has, because every human has got eyes, right? And not everybody have the same eye color. Okay, so character refers to the eye color. Now, as you know, in human, there are many different colors of the eye. The iris is colored differently because of the protein, the molecule, or the ability to make a certain kind of protein. So this is called trait. Trait is called a variation. The different types of eye color you have. So here, I want you to understand the difference between character. Character is the eye color. But what type of eye color? So that is the trait. The trait refers to the variation of the character. So you will have blue, right? You have some people with blue eyes, especially the Caucasians, right? Then you have brown. You also have Caucasians or Asians who have brown eyes. Then you have hazel. Have you heard of hazel eyes? Now, hazel eyes is more of a cross between a greenish color and a brown color. It's like hazel color. Okay, and of course you have green eyes. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. There are other combinations as well. So you will see here there are many types. So it's very scary to look at so many eyes. Single here. Okay, so you see all the single eyes here. Hazel, gray, black, brown, blue, green, amber, and red albino. Okay, this is very rare. Okay, so these are the different types of we call traits. Traits. Traits is the variation of the characteristic. The characteristic is eye color. The trait is all this one. Hazel eyes, gray eyes, black eyes, brown eyes. These are the traits. Okay, so I hope you understand the difference between characteristic or character and also trait. So let's look at here. A characteristic or character is a hereditary figure, a feature that can pass down of an organism. So it can be, example, height, skin color, or eye color. Okay, am I clear to you? Am I blur? If it's blur, I can't help it now. Sorry, because maybe internet. But most importantly, the sound is clear. Should be fine, right? It was most important to be able to hear me. Okay, number 5, trait. Now, what's the difference with the trait? I mentioned just now with picture with drawing. We said trait is a variation. So different types of the eye color. So that is variation. Okay, so variation, for example, if it's eye color, you can talk about green or blue. All right. If you're talking about skin color, it could be dark, it can be fair, it can be light, different types of it. And we're talking about height, it could be tall, it could be short. So these are the traits. Okay, so Gregor Mendel, he lived in the 19th century, okay, from 1822 to 1884. So he's an Austrian monk. Monk is like a priest, right? He stays in the church and all that, or in a monastery, right? And then he's known as the father of genetics because he started this field of genetics. Before him, there was nobody who studied genetics as extensively as he did. So we have a lot to thank him for, because he started this field of how to find out the character, how this feature carry on from one generation to another generation. So we're going to learn a lot about this in our coming lessons. Okay, first of all, what he studied? Like I said, he studied this kacang, all right, it's the pea called Pisum sativum. So he studied, let's look at the characteristic. For example, if we talk about height is the characteristic, okay? But what is the trait? The trait could be, what about the height? Height could be tall or short. So this is the trait. Okay, characteristic is the color of the seed. Now, seed has got different color. Notice that the color of the seed trait. Okay, next, seed shape. Shape also got different. And there are two types. Either they are round or wrinkled. Okay, what does it mean by wrinkled? Okay, let's show you. You see all this? These are the 7 characteristics that he studied. There were 7. In the Pisum sativum, there are 7 different characteristics that he studied. And the traits, okay, and forget about dominant recessive, I'll explain it later. So you have either the seed shape is round or constricted, or we call it, just now we said, what was it? What was it? Wrinkled. Yeah, same thing as wrinkled. So some books will say constricted, some will say wrinkled. Wrinkles it's not, it just means it's not smooth. It just means it's not smooth. Okay. So seed color could be yellow or green. You notice there are 2 types in your the kacang, all right, the green pea, the peas. Inflated, that means the pod is very fat, right? And some are constricted, is like very, it's like deflated and it's kecut. Kecut is like, it's like it is not so bulky, all right? It's like flattened and a bit, it's like not smooth lah, right? The whole pot is not smooth and not bloated. Okay, the pot color could be green or yellow. So he make use of all this, and then he did many investigations by crossbreed them. Okay. Flower color, you notice that some pea plants have purple color flower and some have white color flowers. And flower position, some are axial. Axial means they are found at the tip of the branch. They're at the top here, at the top here, right, of the branch. That means the branch is here. Let's say the branch is here, and the flower happen to be at the end, right, at the end of the branch. But terminal means, oh, sorry, this is the other way around. Sorry, there's a mistake here. Sorry, this is terminal. So I think you need to make a change in your book. This is terminal. Terminal means the ending, at the end. This is terminal. So your textbook, I don't realize there's a mistake here. And this is axial. They already exchanged it. Now, axial means this is your branch. Right? A branch or branching, isn't it? Sometimes it branches out here, it branches out here. These are the branches. The flower came here. The flower is at the branch, in between the branches, in between. So this is called axial. Okay, that means not at the tip. It's not at the tip, at the end of your, this is called terminal lah. This is called terminal, at the end of your branches, at the end of your the branching of your plants here. This is the terminal. But this is terminal. Axial means you have a lot of branches and your flower is in the middle here. You can have here, all right? The flower came out here. It's not at the tip of your branch. That is the meaning of terminal and axial. Okay, one more feature is plant height. You notice there are 2 types of plant, Pisum sativum, the pea plant. Some are natural, just some are tall, and some are dwarf. Dwarf means short. Okay, so he just crossbreed many of these, and then he discovered amazing proportions or amazing law. Okay, we have the Mendel's first law and Mendel's second law, which I will discuss with you in my next lessons. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it now because you wouldn't understand. Okay, you need to know the basic. The basic is today's lesson. Okay, so now we talk about already Gregor Mendel. So he says that he's the first scientist to propose the theory that characteristics in parents. So there must be something in the parents that are transferred to the offspring. And they transfer it to gametes. Okay, so for the plant, it will be the ovum and the pollen grains lah. Okay, for humans and animals, it will be the sperm and the ovums. So they what they call that, they carry that certain kind of characteristic. And then he used the name hereditary factor. He does not use the name gene actually. He did not introduce the term gene. The gene came much later. So this, he said something. He just said it's a factor. Okay, so I do not want to to correct history. I don't want to change facts. Actually, gene came much later. So now we know that it's considered as gene. Okay, gene is what we call the basic unit of inheritance. You are what you are now. You look like your parents. Okay, you look like your father or mother. It's because you carry their gene. So now we use the word gene. Now where is this gene? Okay, so now we look right down into where the genes are. This one comes later. Mendel did not even talk about chromosome. Mendel did not do anything about looking into the chromosome. You can't even see at that level at that time. 19th century, you do not have microscopes that were that powerful to enable you to look into the cell and magnify it to a level that you can actually see your chromosomes. So this one comes much later. He just said that there's hereditary factor. Okay, now let's come to the present. Okay, now scientists have discovered that these genes actually exist where? Where do they exist? They're actually in the chromosomes. Okay, now let's look at this. You have learned homologous chromosomes before. You have learned it when you did your Form 4 work, right? You did your Form 4 Chapter 6, which is cell division. Okay, cell division. When you learn about chromosomes, they come in pairs. Right? Let's say you have 46 chromosomes, right, in a human cell. In fact, you have 23 pairs. Why we talk about pairs? Because you have actually 23 pairs of homologous chromosomes. So let's say the first pair, you got this from your father. Your father must have got, this chromosome came from your father, all right? And the other one, I'm going to put a different color. Okay, this is like a mother. I always like to put red for mother. And then the blue one is the father. Okay, so this is considered one pair. Understand? This is one pair. So this is a homologous chromosome. So scientists have found out now, all right, and not now, all right, some years ago, the genes are actually found on the chromosome. And these genes have specific location. They have specific places. They have specific places where the genes are put there. Okay, so let's say these are the B. The B gene is here. All right, don't care what gene is for lah. And then the A gene is at this place here. So the T gene is here. Maybe this gene is for, let's say, skin color. Let's say this A here is for your blood group. All right, this B gene is for your type of hair. Okay, so you have all these genes on your homologous chromosome. So you have one from the father, right? One from the father here. Let's say this is from your father or from your mother, and this is from your father. So you have two units of chromosome. They are called homologous chromosome, and they carry the same gene which at the same location. So you see, color, let's say skin color is at the same location. So that is considered one pair. This location, let's say, is for the type of eyes, the color of your eyes, maybe here. Okay, so father has one color of the eye, mother has a different color. That will come to later. What color will they have? If they're different colors, never mind. Your child will have only one color. Okay, so you see, they have, this one is called the pairing, right? This is called the pairing of the chromosomes. So they are called homologous chromosomes. And the place where it's found is called the locus. Locus is singular. Okay, if plural, we'll write it as LOCI, loci. In British English means the UK English, we call it loci. We pronounce it like a K. In American English, we pronounce it as loci. Okay, so we were encouraged to use British English, okay, because we were under British rule, all right, many years ago before our independence. So now we follow the British English. I encourage you to use in a British English because, like, when we write the word color, we put a U there. This is British English spelling. If Americans, they will just C-O-L-R. This is American English, okay, American spelling. So we follow the English, all right? I will encourage you to do so. Okay, so we call it loci. Now let's look in detail. Where is these genes? So we have got to go right down to the DNA first. I hope you remember your DNA. Sorry, it just ran away. Okay, look at this DNA. Okay, first of all, where is the DNA? The DNA is in the cell. Okay, let's look at this here. We're in the cell. The cell, you have the chromosome. Sorry, in the cell, you have the nucleus first, the nucleus. Inside the nucleus, you have chromosome. All right, the chromosomes are there. So when you magnify, you go into the chromosome, you will see that when you open up the tightly coiled, all the strands of chromosome, you will find your genes here. Then this is your DNA molecule, which you learned that is a double helix. Okay, double helix. There are two strands, and they will they will intertwine. We call it polynucleotide strands, and they will intertwine like that with one another. And then now this is the location of your genes. Your genes are actually determined by the nitrogenous bases. Remember all these bases here? You have your A and the C and the T and the G. These are called the nitrogenous bases. Okay. Your A stands for adenine. Your C is for cytosine. Your T is for thiamine. Your G is for guanine. These are the nitrogenous bases in the molecule of your DNA. Okay. And these are the genes which determine what type of protein you'll be producing inside your body. Okay, so this type of protein is important because the protein is the building block of life. A lot of things are made from protein. Your enzymes, your antibodies, your cells, everything. So it determines, this code here is like a code. It determines what kind of protein your body can make. Okay, now let's look at another picture to see a clear picture. You see all this? This is your DNA double helix, all right, double helix. So your A, C, T, and G nitrogenous bases are here. Remember, your A always pair up with a T. So if this is A, this one must be T. Okay, and this is C and always pair up with your G. So C and G, A and T. This one you revise a little bit on your own. So your DNA double helix in itself like that one, right? It coils around some histone. These are also proteins. So I'm going to look at the structure of chromosome. Then these proteins, they coil a few more histones and all these coil up together. You will get nucleosome. Okay, don't worry about that. Then you have tightly coil some more, and then once you coil again some more. You call it super coil, right? It's so complicated, the structure. Coil, and again a coil, in the coil itself some more coil, and then you will see all these tightly coiled strands, and that makes up your chromosome. So basically speaking, it means that your DNA, your genes, which are here, your code here, these are your sequence of your gene. They are found in your chromosome. Okay, so when a chromosome splits or the chromosome divides during meiosis, okay, during meiosis, and then you can see it moves to one side and so on, all this cell division and all that, the gene will be carried on into the sperm or into the ovum. And after that, when you have fertilization, the gene is carried, right? And then it combines, and that forms the zygote, and that is the baby there. Okay, so the gene is carried to the next generation. So this is what scientists have found out now, right? So you will see that these are specific locations. If I were to magnify your chromosome, right, number 2 is the centromere. This is your centromere. Okay, and these are the chromatids, right? The strand here is called chromatid. One chromosome, number one here means chromatid lah. We're referring to one only. Okay, chromatid. I'm also revising chapter 6. So this is chromatid, and the whole structure is known as a chromosome. Okay, so I hope you understand the difference. When I say chromatid, I'm referring to one arm only. And whatever I have here, all right, actually it's a replicator on the other side. It's a replicator on the other side. Okay, so it's like an X shape here. What I have here, what kind of gene I have here, I will have it on the same side because it's replicated. Remember, they undergo replication before they start cell division. So one chromosome, whatever they have, they will have 2 copies of it. One on this side, one on the other side, because you have 2 chromatids. Okay, so that is where the genes are. So that's how it gets into the zygote, all right, into the baby. So let's look at the next line, all right. Any questions here so far? Let me just have a look. Okay, nothing so far, right? Right. Now, chromosomes are present in homologous pairs. Okay, this one I've just explained, that both members of each homologous pair have the same structural features. So they are equal in length. So the length of the chromosome, how do you know it's a pair? Both have the same length. Sometimes we look under the microscope, under magnification. Okay, of course, scientists can see same length, same size. They look almost the band, the patterns there almost the same. Then you consider that is the pair. That is the homologous chromosome. They are equal in length, same length, have the same pattern. Yeah, same pattern. Here got here, then you got here pattern here. You know, or the bands here. So they have the same, right? Same patterns here. And one chromosome must come from the father. We call it the paternal chromosome. Right? You inherited this chromosome from your father, from the sperm. Sperm lah. That means the sperm brought this chromosome here. And then the other one is from the mother. This is called the maternal chromosome. So the maternal, this one is already in the ovum. Okay, so the sperm came over and it combined the paternal chromosome. They're not together with the maternal, and then you get one pair. Then you get your zygote. Okay, so the gene is the basic unit of inheritance. So if a question asks you, what is the basic unit of inheritance? So you don't say chromosome. All right, you don't say chromosome, you don't say allele. And allele, I'm going to explain later what's allele. Okay, you say gene. The gene is the basic unit of inheritance because that is where the codes are. The gene has the codes to allow the body to produce whatever protein it is, and that is going to show your characteristic. So what kind of skin color you have? Maybe you're fair, or maybe you're very dark. You're very dark is because you have a lot of melanin in your skin. Okay, so that is also encoded in your gene. So that's the reason why, okay, some people are born dark. Some people are born dark because they are in the genes. For example, Indians or Africans, they are dark. The skin color is dark, not because they've gone under the sunlight for a long time. When they are born, the baby is already dark. It's because the body has the ability to produce more melanin. Okay, melanin is a kind of pigmentation that gives color to the skin. So they have more melanin in their skin, therefore their skin is darker. Okay, of course, you can also induce melanin by going under the sun. Of course, that's the reason why the more sun you're exposed to, the darker you get. Also can. That is environmental influence. But skin color, some is also because of what you're born with. Okay, so that means your body can produce that melanin, whether more or less only. So each chromosome has thousands of genes. See, in your chromosome, it has the ability, it has the possibility to have many, many genes inside there. So in humans, I found that actually how many genes is needed to make a human body or a human person or a human. I found it's about at least 20 to 25,000 genes to make a human body. Okay, so you see a lot of genes and they are all in the chromosome. Okay, so the position of the gene, like I said, where the genes are, the position, the place, okay, is this word, locus. Locus singular. If English, in plural, we say LOCI. So loci in British English or loci in American English. Okay, so the DNA codes synthesis, the code that in the DNA, the gene, will determine what kind of protein. And that protein will determine your characteristics. Okay, so that means the gene controls the characteristics. All right, now, so that's called the gene. All right, now gene may have two different alternative forms, and those two alternative forms are called allele. Okay, what does it mean by this? Okay, let me give you an example. Example is here. These are all the gene. These are all the chromosomes. Like I want to mention here. Now this is your pair. Pair number 1. This is homologous chromosome. Pair number 1. You see because the pattern is very similar and the size. So this is pair number 2. This is pair number 3, and so on. So you see this person, this human. This is called a karyotype. This is called karyotype. We call it profiling. Okay, a chromosome karyotype. Karyotype is like a picture of all your chromosomes all lined up together, and that is your character. That shows your composition. Okay, so you see XY. You have 2 sex chromosomes. Okay, do you remember what is XY? You will have 44 chromosomes. These are all the 44. You will add up all together. It's 44 plus XY. So can you tell me, is this a boy or a girl? Do you know? 44 plus XY. Okay, I'm sure some of you will know. All right, I just want some interaction from you. Can you tell me whether this is an X? 44 plus XY is what kind of human? Is it normal? Is it abnormal? Everything looks okay, right? It's got 44 chromosomes. Everything's in pair. Pair 1, pair 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everything's in pairs. No problem. No extras, isn't it? Remember, we had a Down syndrome. You have an extra unit of your chromosome number 21. Then you will have a Down syndrome. You learned that last year. So 44 plus XY, do you know what they are? What it is? This is a boy. Yes, good. All right, you still remember your form 4 work. 44 plus XY is a boy. So this is a male. These chromosomes come from a male. And then if you have two X's, this one, you see the two X here? You will be a girl. 44 plus XX. This is a girl. All right, okay. So this is your profiling, your what you call the karyotyping. This is all the chromosomes. These are the what they call the pairing. This is the homologous. They all paired nicely. See the small with the small one, the same size. Okay, and the same place there, the locus will have the same type of gene. Okay, now let's talk about the gene and allele. What's the difference, gene and allele? Just now we say character. Character is, let's say, eye color, correct? And the trait is the different types of eye color. You have the blue and the brown and the green and the hazel, for example. Now, genes, similarly, is like this. Character is determined by the gene, right? So your gene for eye color, there's a gene for eye color. But what type of gene is it? The eye color, is it blue, is it brown, green, or hazel? So this is called the allele. Allele is the variation of the gene. Okay, so the gene for eye color, there are two types. So either is the blue allele or the brown one. So they are or the green or the hazel. So allele is the variation of the gene. Just like the trait is the variation of the character, the trait is the variation of the character, the allele is the variation of the gene. Okay, do you understand this? Variation of trait is variation of character, whereas allele is the variation of the gene. Okay, now let's look at some more explanation. So allele is the alternative form of the gene. Yeah, alternative means variation. So for example, if I say the person has got a gene for eye color, okay, what kind of eye color? Is it blue eye color or white? Not white, blue eye color or green eye color? They are called the alleles. Okay, so for example, let's look here. Allele is the alternative form of the gene for a certain trait which occupy the same gene locus on a pair of homologous chromosomes. For example, the gene for the height of the pea plants, the height, has got two alleles. There are two types of alleles for the height. One allele is for tall, another allele is for dwarfness. That means short. Okay, so there's a tall allele, there's a short allele. So these are the type of gene. So what it means that allele means like the type of gene. It means like type of gene. Okay, like type of gene. Okay, now alleles, okay, so far okay. So allele is, trait is to character, allele is to gene. So it's like this, all right. Trait is the variation of a character, whereas allele is the variation of the gene. Now, so let's talk about, there are two types of allele actually. We're going to talk about dominant allele and recessive allele. So scientists have found out, geneticists have found out that actually there are two types of allele. So we can say like blue color or brown color eyes. Actually, some are dominant, some are recessive. Okay, what does it mean by dominant? Now, dominant means it's stronger. Okay, very simply means it's stronger. Why is it stronger? Dominant. Let's say you have a dominant hand. What does it mean by dominant hand? The dominant hand is your hand that you use a lot of. You use it to write, you use it to feed yourself, you use most of your right hand, then it's considered your right hand is a dominant hand. Okay, that means it's a stronger one. You use it a lot. Okay, that's a dominant. Now, dominant allele is an allele that is what we say stronger. It will have a higher tendency to show the characteristic. Okay, now let's look at how to represent first. Allele, we use symbols to represent. Let me show you the symbol. Now, okay, let me see. Okay, now look at this. Usually, sorry, just flew away. Sorry, not stable. Here. All right. Okay, sorry. Now look here. Alleles, there are two types I mentioned. There could be dominant and also allele. Usually, or not usually, we always do that. When it is a dominant allele, the stronger one, we will represent with a capital letter. So we will represent with a capital T, let's say. For example, we were talking about tall, okay? If that organism has a feature that we see that is tall, it's possible that the plant has a tall gene. We can say that. Okay, let's say, for example, a plant we notice is tall. All right, so there is a possibility that it will have a tall gene. So how are you going to represent a tall gene? Tall gene, we don't say gene, we say allele now, because it could be tall and short. There are two types. Okay, for height, there are two types, either tall or either they are short. It's called dwarf. So that's why we have two separate symbols for it. We will use the capital letter to show dominant, dominant, and we use a small letter to show recessive. Okay, recessive. Now, scientists have found out that tall is always dominant for the plant, for this Pisum sativum plant. Dominant is tall, and they found that recessive is short. That means the short gene is not so strong. Okay, so think of it this way: the tall gene is stronger, and the short gene is not so strong. Okay, now think of it that way lah. Okay, now first just think of it that way first. Stronger means, what does it mean by stronger? Stronger means there's a higher chance for it to show the tallness, easier to show. Okay, now let's go back to here first. Come back to here. Okay, come back to here first. Dominant and recessive. So here, all alleles can exist in dominant or recessive. So alleles can be two types. Okay, alleles can be two types, whether it's dominant or whether it's recessive. So usually dominant is expressed in capital letter. So we use, let's say, capital T or capital B or capital G, okay? And the recessive will use the small letter, lowercase, okay? 小字母, okay? The small letter one, for example, small t or small b or small g, like that, that is the recessive. What's the meaning of dominant allele? Okay, dominant allele are alleles that controls the characteristic of organism and mask or cover the effect of recessive allele. Now, dominant alleles is so strong that if you have one dominant allele alone, it is enough to show the characteristic. That is enough to show the trait. For example, if I only have, let's say, one, okay, let's say, but it's not possible to have one. Every organism must have two. Isn't it? Remember, I told you, see, you have at least two of each one. One comes from the father, one comes from the mother. So if for the plant, let's say this plant is so happen to be tall, it must have two copies of the allele. Okay, so example, let's say if a dominant allele, capital T, we say is stronger, then the other one doesn't matter. The other one can be a recessive allele, doesn't matter. This organism who has a dominant allele and a recessive allele, they will show the dominant. So this plant will be considered tall. Don't care whether you got short gene also. This is a short gene, but because it is recessive, short or say dwarf because it's recessive, that means it will be covered up. It will be covered by the tall, what do you call that? The tall gene. This is dominant. Dominant, you just need one. It will show already. It will show the tall feature. Okay, now if it is recessive, you say it cannot show short because the tall is stronger. In order to show the short, it has to be two recessive genes. If two recessive alleles exist together in the organism, now this fella will be short. Okay, do you understand? You need to have two copies of the recessive allele in order to show the feature. But for the dominant allele, you don't need two. You just need one. It is strong enough to show the feature, 它的特征 enough to show. Okay, so that's the difference between a dominant allele and a recessive allele. Okay, is there any question over here before I carry on further? Okay, let's just have a look. So far nothing, all right, nothing, that I'll just carry on. Maybe the more I explain, the more you will get the idea. Okay, let's go back to this one. The dominant and recessive. So this is quite important for you to understand, because the next lesson, we're going to start drawing the diagram. You need to know what is capital, what is a small letter. So you see, dominant alleles are strong enough, it can mask, it can cover the recessive allele, the effect. It won't show the recessive. When you have a dominant, you have a recessive, it will definitely show the dominant. Recessive will not show because it's not strong enough. Okay, then what about recessive? How will recessive show its trait or its express itself? The recessive allele will only express itself in the absence of dominant allele. When the dominant is not there, okay? When the dominant is not there, for example, you have 2 of the recessive, then only it will show the recessive trait. Okay, now, so here, example here, you have capital T, capital T. This one will definitely be dominant lah. Of course, you have 2 dominant, right? One dominant is already strong enough to show. Definitely when 2 T, capital T, it will be taller. All right. And if the one is capital T and small t, it will also be tall. Okay, so here you got tall has got 2 variation. If an organism or the plant, let's say the plant has got capital T and capital T, capital T, it has 2 copies of the dominant allele, this one will definitely be taller. All right, if you got 1 is also considered tall. But if you have 2 short ones, then only you can get the short. All right, so that's why, because the tall is the dominant one. The tall is the dominant allele. Because the scientists have done research, they found that this is definitely dominant. So you can't change the fact. You cannot say dominant is short. Cannot. Okay, this is proven already. Tried, proven, and tested. Okay, now let's go back to here. So here, if organism is pure breeding tall means it has only tall genes. Pure breeding, that means it only contains one type of gene, which is tall, either tall or either short lah. So if it's pure breeding tall, that means it must be capital T, capital T. Okay, a pure breeding plant will be able to produce offspring with the same traits when self-pollinated. I'll explain this further when we talk about the crossing. Okay, I'll talk about pure breeding, the definition. So I'll talk about that later. So this if it's small letter t is also considered pure breeding because both are the same type. Okay, so capital T or small t, we say pure breeding. Pure breed, that means 没有掺到, doesn't mix. If you have a capital T and a small t, this is called a hybrid. What is it called hybrid? Hybrid means it's a mix. You have a tall allele, you have a short allele. That means you have 2 types of characteristic there. But you only show the tall because the tall is stronger. The tall is dominant. But it's called hybrid. It's still called hybrid. Hybrid means you don't have 2 genes that are the same. Okay? 2 alleles. These 2 alleles are not the same. So one, if it's hybrid, one must be dominant, one must be recessive. That's called hybrid. If it's pure breeding, either both dominant or both recessive. Okay? Now the next table here, you don't have to memorize. These are all the type of alleles, whether they are dominant or recessive, already tested. They're already proven in human, right? Brown eyes is considered dominant. Blue or gray eyes is recessive. You don't have to memorize this. If they want you to do any question, they will give you which is dominant, which is recessive. Okay, you can just go through the list on your own. Free earlobe, that means your earlobe is like this. This is called free earlobe. The earlobe is the side of your face. Your ear is like this, the shape. You see? This is shape. There's an earlobe here, jutting out. The other one is called attached earlobe. That means the ear is like this, the earlobe is like this. So this is the side of the face. Your earlobe is like this. Some people, the ear like that one. You see, it goes right in like that. There is no lobe. This is the ear. Okay, the ear that goes right in like that, that is called attached earlobe. So thick lips, thin lips. Okay, you go through the list. I am not going to go through everything because it will take time. You don't have to memorize this anymore. Further, all right. Dwarf, polydactyl. Polydactyl is a phenomenon where a hand has more than 5 fingers. That's called polydactyl. Okay, surprisingly, it's dominant. Surprisingly. Okay, recessive is normal. Normal means having 5 fingers only. Okay, short fingers is dominant. Recessive is normal fingers. Okay, so all these don't need to remember. Now curly hair, curly hair is dominant. Curly hair is dominant. Straight hair is recessive. Okay, pigmented skin, that means normal skin color, we have the brownish color. Doesn't matter how brown it is, dark brown or light brown. As long as you have a brown skin color, it's called pigmented. That is normal, dominant, not normal, that's dominant. And those people, some people are born albino. Albino, they are very fair. Their skin has, the body has a lacking ability of producing melanin. So the skin is very light color, don't have much of a brown color. And then sometimes the eyes, the iris are also, you don't have the color, brown color. The iris is not brown color. So it's a bit like yellow, reddish color. It's called albino. In fact, the white rabbit is actually albino rabbit. The normal rabbit is the brown fur one. Okay, the albino rabbit is the rabbit that we like so much, the white rabbit, and the eyes are red color one. They are called albino rabbits. Okay, next one. Now, next term to understand. We have already gone through quite a number of terms. Let's say go on. Genotype and phenotype. Now, look at these two. Phenotype, all right, is the appearance, what you can see from the outside. That's called the phenotype. That is visible. For example, we want to talk about a plant. It's a tall plant. Then you say this, the phenotype is tall. Phenotype means because you can see it's tall, you can see something that is observable. Something that you can see is called, the feature there is called phenotype. Okay, so it's tall is phenotype. Short, you can also see it's short. The phenotype is short. Whether the flower is red, this is also phenotype. White is also phenotype. So these can be seen. Okay, can be seen. These are called phenotype. Now, the other type that you need to learn is genotype. Genotype you cannot see. Okay, this is the genes that's inside the cell. This is called the genetic composition, which you cannot see. All right, now, how do we answer the question when they ask you, what is the genotype of the offspring? What is the phenotype of the offspring? Okay, don't worry, let's look here. I'll give you an example. For example, look at these plants, two types of plant. One pea plant is tall, one pea plant is dwarf. And I tell you that this is a pure breeding tall plant. Pure breeding tall plant means both the alleles are of the same type. They both have the tall gene or tall allele. And I tell you that, let's say this is also a pure breeding dwarf plant or short plant. That means both the alleles are of the same type. It must be the short one. It cannot be tall. Because if it's like this, it will definitely be tall. If it's one dominant, tall is dominant, short is recessive, or dwarf is recessive. So this one cannot be short. This one is definitely tall as well. Okay, so if I want pure breeding, then this is not pure breeding. Pure breeding means both alleles must be the same type. Okay, now let me ask you, what is the phenotype of plant A and phenotype of plant B? For example, if I want to ask you this question, you want to answer this question. What is the phenotype, okay, of A, phenotype of B? Now, what is your answer? Your answer is tall. This is what you can see, isn't it? Phenotype of plant A is tall. Okay, what about B? What is the phenotype of B? Phenotype of B is dwarf or short, because this is what you can see. All right, now, another thing I want to ask you is, I want to learn the genotype. If a question asks you, what is the genotype of A? What is the genotype of B? Now, you don't give answer tall or dwarf. You don't give answer. This is correct here, but if you give this answer here, it's wrong. Because genotype is not referring to what you can see from the outside. It is what is actually, what type of gene does it have? What is inside? So what is the answer for genotype now? Okay, so if I ask you what's the genotype of A, you have to answer using symbols. TT, capital T, capital T. Okay, you understand this? Right? And if I ask you what is the genotype of B, you will have to answer as small t, small t. Then it's correct. So remember, the question asks you for genotype. Basically, what it means, they want to ask you what type of gene is inside that. So you cannot answer by using words. You have to answer by writing the genes, the combination of the alleles. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so it's easier for me to explain to you if I give you this kind of question. Okay, so genotype, phenotype is done already. All right, so I go through now. Next one, homozygote, heterozygote. Okay, this is the last pair of words that you need to learn. All right, I know you've learned a lot of those already. Homozygote and heterozygote. Now, what does it mean by homozygote, heterozygote? Okay, again, I don't want to confuse you. Look at this. Look at this question. So usually, look at this. If I tell you a plant is capital T is dominant allele for tall, a small t for is a recessive allele for dwarfness. What kind of possible combination can a plant have? What kind of genes can a plant have? Remember that an individual must inherit one from the father, one from the mother. So you must have two alleles inside there. You cannot have just one allele. One allele, it means there's no even fertilization. How can you produce the next generation? You must have two because one came from the father, one came from the mother. So tell me the possible combinations that you have. Take the T's here and make the possible combinations for them. You know what I mean? Okay, I'll give you an example. What kind of organisms can I produce if I have this kind of genes? Okay, for example, possible combinations, I can have, let's say, capital T, right? If this organism has capital T, that means two copies of dominant allele. What kind of organism is it? Or it can also have like this, isn't it? One capital T, one dominant allele, and one recessive allele. Also possible as long as I take two alleles. As long as I take two alleles, can already. Okay, another combination. What is another combination? It can be small t, isn't it? Also can. So you can see here, I've got three possible combinations when I want to make an organism with this type of alleles. So here, this is called, this is what I'm showing here is the genotype. These are the genotype. Okay, this is the genotype. Genotype is all this. These are the symbols for genotypes. And the phenotype will be, this is tall, this is tall, this is dwarf. Correct? Okay? Now, so I have got three combinations. Now, I want to tell you, right, one more thing. If I see that all the alleles are the same inside an organism, both they have same type of allele, that means dominant, or recessive, both both types of alleles are the same, we call it a homozygote. Homo means same. The two alleles are the same. So this is another homozygote. Okay? But the difference here is this is homozygote dominant. Understand? And this is homozygote recessive. You understand that? All right. So here, I move this away because no, I cannot move it because I want to move it. The blue, the yellow color will still be there. I'll go to that later. So homozygote dominant means two capital letter of the same type. Okay. Homozygote recessive, this one is called two small letters because they are recessive. Two are the same. Now what about this one? What do we call this? This one is not homo. Homo means the same. So we use another word. We call it hetero. Heterozygote. Heterozygote, you no need to say dominant or recessive already. Just say heterozygote. Another name is called hybrid. Okay? So when I use the word homozygote or heterozygote, you should know what kind of combination is inside there. When I say homozygote, that means the two allele must be the same type. When I say heterozygote, it means it is one dominant, one recessive. Is that clear? Okay. Can I just see by a show of in the comment there? Can you just type 11111 if you understand? If you don't understand, you type maybe question mark. Okay. Yeah, I just want to see so far okay or not. I've introduced homozygote, heterozygote, dominant allele, recessive allele. Okay. Just to say, just type there 1111. That means so far I'm okay lah. If I see a lot of question mark, maybe I need to go through a little bit more or something like that. Okay. So far I see some one. Oh, okay, 111. No need to so many ones. I just one time only. Okay. Okay. Pinyin. Yeah. Okay. Good. 111. Okay. So far I just want to know I'm clear to you. Because It's useless if I'm talking for so long and you don't understand. Okay, now next thing. I just want to give you a certain example. What kind of symbols we use to represent? So usually for dominant, we say use capital letter, right? Recessive, use capital letter. But there are certain letters I do not encourage you to use to represent the allele. Examples would be like this: C. Do you know why I don't want you to use your C and your F and your I and your J and your L? Your L and the K. You know why? Because this one, the capital and the small, they look the same. So depending on how big you write, and some of you, your handwriting is so horrible. Sometimes your capital letter and your small letter look the same. So in order to make yourself safeguard yourselves, when you write all these symbols, when you do your, you do your answer all this, when you want to write your schematic diagram, be sure to use specific symbols which are very different. Capital letter and the small letter are very different. For example, A, you see your capital letter is A, like this. Small letter is this. There's no way of you both of them looking the same. But for K, sometimes the way you write, the capital K and the small K, depending on how long is your line, they look the same. So sometimes you can write wrongly, or maybe the examiner will look at your answer wrongly. Okay, so there are certain which I do not encourage, because S look the same, the Y looks the same, Z don't use all this. You are putting yourself in danger if you do all that. Okay, PP also don't, because sometimes your P, your handwriting, some of you are so horrible handwriting. I don't know whether it's capital or small letter. They both look the same. Okay, so use A, B, D, E because they are different. G, H, N, Q also can. Q, because you see you have a Q. This is so much different from each other. Okay, R and R, all this, use that. T and T, they are very different. So you only have a combination of how many? A choice of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You use those 10, no? I'm sure it's enough for you to go by. Okay, so that. Lastly, yeah, I've already gone through your heterozygous and homozygous. Where is it? Okay. So homozygote, heterozygote is referring to the organism. So what's the difference between homozygous and homozygote? Homozygous means same lah. Like I said, homozygous is just TT, this one and this one, or this one or this one lah. And then heterozygous would mean where's the heterozygous? Heterozygous is the one big, one small lah. Okay. What's the difference homozygous and homozygote? Homozygote is referring to the organism. Homozygous, you must put a word next to homozygous. Another word. This is an adjective. It's an adjective. Okay, it's adjective. So usually we are not particular lah. Whatever you write, as long as you say homozygote or homozygous, I know the concept is correct. We are not marking for your grammar. Okay, so as long as the concept is correct, then it's fine. Okay, so heterozygous, it means you have your capital T and your small t. So heterozygous and heterozygote, we're not too particular. All right, okay. So here, now, just lastly, just want you to, I will go through this in my next lesson. So maybe you can have a snapshot here and you try to fill up this one. If I were to, let's say I give you an example, phenotype is here. I ask you for phenotype, you must say the characteristic in terms of words, whether it's smooth or whether it's wrinkled. Then genotype, you must put it in terms of what? You must put it in terms of symbol. Symbol. Always remember that. So for dominant, it could be two. It can be double, capital, or capital and small letter. Because you say, remember you said just one dominant allele is enough to show the what they call the trait already. Okay, so here for seed color, let's say I use a different I don't want to use all this S, and S is, let's say, for seed shape. I don't want to use S. Okay. Yellow, let's say dominant for yellow is B. So here can be both capital, also yellow, or capital B, small b is also yellow. Okay, because you just need one to show the yellow, because dominant is yellow. And the other one, green, is recessive. You will have to have two the recessive, then only show the green. Okay, so you can just fill up. Actually, it's all the same. So this is called homozygous. This is heterozygous. And this is homozygous. So this is homozygous dominant. All right, homozygous dominant. This is homozygous recessive. And this is a hybrid, or we call heterozygous. Okay, so I hope you are clear. So let's flashback what we have learned. All these terms are try to find out, go to your workbook and fill up your answers there. Homozygous and heterozygotes. Okay, there's one pair. Need to know what's the difference. Genotype, phenotype. Okay, we have done that. What's the difference? Dominant allele, recessive allele. Okay, then we also learn allele and gene. What's the difference in the meaning? Then also character and characteristic and traits. So all these I've covered, right? This is your textbook. So you can, in order to understand, please go and read through your textbook here, read through here until this one I will explain in my next lesson, how to draw the diagram. It's important. All of you must draw. So this one I have done. Okay, please go through that, the alleles and genes, phenotypes, genotypes. I've gone through all that. Okay, and also all this dominant recessive allele, dominant and recessive traits, heterozygous. Okay, parental generation, filial generation. This one I'll explain when I draw the diagram. Okay, purebred, hybrid also I have already explained. So far it's until here. Next lesson I will teach you how to draw this diagram. That is called the monohybrid inheritance. Okay, so today I want you to introduce this. I want you to learn all these important terms. Without this, you will be lost in your next lesson. All right, okay. So for those who have not seen this, please tell your friends to go and look through this video before our lesson next week on Monday and Tuesday. All right, okay. So I will say bye-bye now. All right. Any questions you can ask me. Those students out there as well, please drop me a line if you have any questions. I'll be most happy to answer your questions. Okay. So I will see you next week in class. I'll continue with monohybrid inheritance. Okay, bye-bye, girls. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.